Hello and welcome everyone to week 3 of Can-Am Season 9. We're just getting quali underway. We've got everyone loaded in. Should have a full grid, just missing Flame. So hopefully he might be able to join a little bit later. See if my audio is working. Yep. Okay. So there we've got everyone loaded up on the left. We do have some news, just in general from the league. Buddha, who was a reserve last week, has now stepped into a full-time role at Williams, and Fate has retired without even racing a week in Season 9, so wish Fate the best, and hopefully he can join a couple times as a reserve, maybe later down the season. But he has retired, and just too much going on, and completely understandable. But we obviously all wish that he could be on the grid and be an extra person and be in the battle for points and all that, and take part in Season 9. So we wish Flame well, or jeez, we wish Fate well. We wish Flame would show up. And let's get week 3 underway. As it looks like Coach is the first person out on track. And yeah, so week 3 takes us to Hungary, which is very, very hard on the tires. And it looks like we have a dry session for now. Not sure what the race is looking like, but we'll see. It looks like there's some clouds in the distance, but hopefully stays dry as we see about everyone come out onto the track. Going from the top down like I do every week. Sloppy Giraffe will be referred to as Svensson. Vivoda is Vivoda. Lucid Cardiac is Lucid. Cloud City is Cloud. MK7 Hitch is Hitch. Anime Boy is Anime. 5007 is Heatley. YSL Buddha is Buddha. Coach Fantasy is Coach. Mini Squatch is Squatch. Forever Slick is Josh. Mel Gibson is Mel. Goat Lee is Goat. EXO is Dave or David. The Yuppie is Yuppie. Matt Man is Matt. The Gronk 2017 is Gronk. Dismal Games is Dismal, and Kryptonic Swag is Kryptonic. Now let's ride on board with Coach going through his first lap of Hungary. Want to break at the 100 here. Looks like Coach locks up a little bit. Keeps the lap going. Into this downhill left-hander. Does ride the curb a little bit. And the problem with these laps are they're going to chew up the softs so much that you're only going to be able to get one pretty good lap on these quali tires. You can't just restart. Svensson has left the session, had some connection issues before, and I fear that those did not go away as we enter almost getting to Sector 3, a tricky Sector 2. As you saw, the chicane just passed, and those two tricky corners right after it. Purple because he's the first person to cross each sector line into Sector 3. This is a tricky corner. Don't want to dip your tire into the inside curb. Don't want to go too wide. Same thing here, and want to push it all the way out to the edge of the track. And this is a 1:18.4. Looks like Vivoda behind him is just going to finish his lap in a 17.1, which is now provisional pole. Cloud coming through the final sector here. Looks like a little bit of a lockup there. Hard into the final turn. David goes provisional pole with a 16.7. Cloud's going to do him one better, a 15.5 starting as Goat goes a 25. Kryptonic goes a 38. What in the world? We've had another qualifying collision featuring GOAT as Dismal gets a 15.8, goes P2. But that collision with GOAT, who was off the line to the inside, I think Dismal may be trying to slot in behind him and runs into the back of him and nets himself a 5-place grid penalty, which also gives GOAT a grid penalty, which is his second on the year, on the season. In 3 races, GOAT has 10 grid plots that he has dropped. And in Hungary, where that's very important, mental errors in the qualifying session certainly do not do either of those drivers any favors, but they do have a full race to make it back. Not sure who is going to be at fault, if there was really any fault, but usually there is in qualifying. But that's quite the way to start. In about the first 8 minutes of qualifying, we're on board with Hitch, watching his first lap across the line in a 15.7 for P3. Now Dismal down to P4. Gronk looking to complete a lap here. Purple sector 2, but who knows if the track map is true. Gronk has been known to be pretty good in Hungary before, in previous F1 games, but we'll see if that rings true in 2025, as coming down the start-finish straight, and it goes P6 with a 16.2. Now we'll ride on board with Squatch on his lap. We see Vivoda in 8th when he finished the provisional pole run. Matt right behind him with a 17.2. Yuppie with a 17.5. Mel with an 18.1. Goat and Kryptonic going to want to get a lap in as Lucid goes P2 by only 0.03 to Cloud. Quite the lap from him. Squatch through Sector 2. We're going to have to re-invite Svensson. Give him one last chance to not have his PC blow up from these invites, from these lobbies. Squatch a little bit wide out of the final turn, and this is going to be in the 17s. It's a 17.5, good enough for 10th. As we will go find someone close to a lap. Looks like Coach might just be starting, as we'll try and get an invite out quickly. Oh no, we have to go all the way down here. And who knows if we'll be able to find... Okay, he's the very last person. Ooh, his coach snaps out and just avoids the braking marker and now takes too much curb. Not sure if he's still going to be down on his time, but a flashing light does indicate that his ERS is off as he goes flying off the track once again. Hello, MJW. Hope you're having a good night. Oh, his Buddha gets a little shaky. Oh, MJW's ruined the stream already and he managed to do it in only 3 words. We're not even going to repeat that live on the stream. Looks like Buddha is going through his lap and is just going to get out of the way for a Ferrari behind him. Looks like Yuppie coming through as Aston Martin is getting out of the way in a creative manner. Yuppie is down through the first sector. This tricky corner, again, want to use all the track, a little bit of a snap. The setups have to be so oversteery in Hungary. It's very hard to control. I was testing this out in the practice lobby that we always run yesterday. It's just a tough track to create a setup where you're fast and also stable. This Yuppie is down about a tenth, and that would net him one position, but he needs to find a couple tenths to get a couple spots. Now let's see if he can make up about 1.5 tenths to the line. That's going to be a 17.1, good enough for P10. Found a couple tenths in that Sector 3. Kryptonic on another slow lap, but looks to be firing it up for his first lap, and let's stay on board for this one. Kryptonic been one of the faster drivers this season. Looking for a qualifying time so far with a 1:36.5. Definitely not going to be enough to cut it. As he fires it up, but we do have a couple different people from the top. Hitch, who has been our pole sitter for the first 2 weeks, is down into 4th. Now, Kryptonic was up in that Sector 1. Not sure if it's just the older tires since he's ran a lap, but does good to take a lot of curb and still hold speed there. But definitely not being ginger with the tires. Concludes Sector 2 down 9 seconds. Now take that with a grain of salt. You would need 9 seconds to make up one position. But this still should be a good time. I would predict him being around 5th or 6th. This goat goes provisional pole with a 15.3. What a time. And 8th, a little bit worse than my prediction, a 1:16.2. But will look to get a lap with the proper tires. Now Svensson is joined. The bottom 3 have pit. Don't have a lap time in. We'll try and find someone on a lap as Heatley goes a 15.2. And that is enough to put him provisional pole. Now, what we've seen from Hitch every single week is he comes in with the last hero lap, and it's a very dangerous game because if you invalidate, you're going to be stuck down in 5th, and it would be interesting to see if Hitch doesn't... Okay. See Lucid lose the car and damage his wing as soon as we turn the camera to him. But it would be interesting to see what Hitch can do if he's not starting in 1st, to see if he could work his way back through the field. And Cloud, last year's drivers champion, looking for revenge, looking to come back to form, hasn't had the best first 2 weeks, was spun in Canada, and in Spa held his line a bit and was unlucky with the safety car. I think something happened on the restart as well, but just has not had incident-free or kind of bad luck-free racing. So he is into the pits, and now pretty much everyone's into the pits. Dismal. Don't know if he just dropped time on his lap. I'm not sure. His light is flashing, so I don't think he's on a hot lap. But I think he may have just dropped 3 tenths, and I'm not exactly sure if that's true or not, but he's at a 1:15.5, and remember, a 5-place grid penalty for him and Goat. So right now netting him in P10 and Goat in P7. but very close at the front of the field. Dismal coming through gingerly. Everyone starting their out laps. Coach looks to be on a lap. Now he is down 3/10. He's going to probably need a decent time here, a decent time drop to find himself in a decent quali position. He's taking Sector 2 a little gingerly as Josh goes P9. Yes, Svensson has disconnected once again. 9/10 drop for Coach so far through 2 sectors. Looking for the extra traction, short shifting in a couple corners. And it's going to be a 17-2, which does net him a couple positions. Buddha is on an invalid lap. Voda starting his Sector 1 was not great. We'll look at David, what he's doing through Sector 1. Looks like he is slowed down as well. And it looks like Vivoda is not on a lap either. Top 4 starting their out laps. Don't know if Josh is going to be able to fire up another lap after his improvement into 9th. We'll find who is going to get on their lap. We'll try to invite Svensson one more time, but if it's not going to work, then I think it's just destiny. We don't see him here. Scroll all the way down, and we'll try one more time. As Goat has started his lap first, but again with a 5-place grid penalty. He is down a 10th to purple Sector 1. Cloud is just barely up on his time. Does need to find a couple hundredths. Now Heatley just started his lap as well as Lucid does. Looks like pretty much everyone is on a lap as Goat is down a 10th. But it's not enough for provisional pole. He's got to find a little bit of time in Sector 3. Is he going to be able to? This will be his last lap. Pretty much everyone's finishing laps. And yes, he takes provisional pole with a 15-2, and Cloud, unlucky, does disqualify his lap for track limits. But on board with Heatley. Looks like he gets a little out of shape here. Don't know if he's going to be able to find an improvement or not after just watching. And the 2 at the bottom have finished with no time in the qualifying session. Not sure if there was internet issues or not. Heatley is up 3/10 on this time. Lucid's up a 10th. Shouldn't see anyone really dropping from those 2. As now we'll ride on board with Hitch. We'll be watching the leaderboard, see people come in. David has ended his session. Josh has ended his. The drivers towards the bottom. We've seen a couple people flip now. Lucid up into P3, looking for a front 2 rows, second row. Will Hitch be able to do it for a 3rd week in a row? This hero lap, he's going to be one of the last people to cross the line. It's looking like it's going to be a solid time, but is it going to be pole? No, by 1,000th, but it is going to be enough to net him pole after the grid penalties, and we see Matt getting out of the way. Everyone has finished a lap now, and everyone is done with this qualifying session. So there you have it. We have Goat in provisional poll by 1,000th, but the grid penalty is going to knock him down 5 places, so we'll be starting P5. Dismal will be starting P11 after his grid penalty, but there you have the gaps, and towards the bottom, a relatively close qualifying session. Buddha and Mel in 16th and 17th. But yeah, I think the grid penalty, quite the story, as Goat's second grid penalty this season is going to remove him off pole. I think we'll still get statted as pole, but will not technically start on the front row. Still get the stat, still get a pole position, which isn't worth any points, but won't get the benefits of a pole position. So unfortunate for those two. Goat broke the streak of Hitch pole. So we'll see what Hitch can do. Even though he's still starting P1, it's going to be same old, same old. All right. I mean, if anyone's listening to the stream, we're probably good ready. Don't think we're waiting on anyone. I think the waiting on players is where it readies up. It doesn't give me a timer anymore, which kind of sucks. But we'll have the formation lab to talk a little bit. Sorry for being silent. When I go radio silent, I'm usually just messaging people on Discord or doing something. Either making sure every lobby's running or talking to certain people about trying to get them back in the lobby. So, we've had a couple people, specifically to Haas, disconnect from their lobbies. So, in Tier 3, we are going to try a new lobby host next week. We're going to try and have BuzzT host and see if that solves anything. There might be an issue with me creating the lobby and then passing the host to someone else. So I'll just make sure that he's ready to get invites out and ready to load the settings. But in Tier 1, Svensson has been having connection issues, and I can't really help with that since, I wouldn't care if someone else hosted here, but I wouldn't want to invite problems on any of the other drivers when only specific people have issues. So I wouldn't want to have a lobby where 18 people crash because we changed something or the lobby crashes. And I think everyone else has been having a decent time with these lobbies, so it sucks that we'll have to find another replacement, but we'll see what happens. We've had great attendance this year. Super proud of everyone, regardless of whatever tier. And, I think we had 57 drivers sign up this week. So it just feels crazy to say that after, I've seen Can-Am and joined Can-Am when it was one tier. So it's awesome to see the growth of the league, and it's super exciting. And I just hope that, all 57 drivers can avoid connection issues and, can actually get to race and not just disconnect immediately. So we always have a couple issues. Last season we had 3 races in Tier 1 that just completely disconnected. So we also had a couple races in Tier 2 that just disconnected, and we had to do half points. So sometimes it can be a mess, but we always try and work through it, find solutions, so nothing will stop us from doing that. Looks like Tier 1 has finally decided to ready up, and we'll be off on our way in the formation lap. As you can see, there's the starting grid after penalties. We do have Goat down in 5th, Dismal in 11th. Unlucky to be starting down here, since Hungary is quite the track to have track position on. And yes, we see that Svensson is a ghost, but Anime is still here. The two Williams trying to make their way up from 17th and 19th throughout the grid, or throughout the race. Mel in 16th, going to be doing the same thing. Coach looking for some points in 15th. Squatch, I think this is his lowest qualifying position this season, so he'll be looking to make up a couple places. Bivoda as well has been almost top 10, 10th or 11th, I think. The first 2 races, looking to make up some positions in 13th. Josh, I think this has been his best qualifying position, up in 12th. Obviously, with other people falling down the order, someone has to go up the order. Dismal lets Matt by again in 11th place after the grid penalty. Matt in P10, I think one of his better qualifying positions, and he's been doing better and better as he gets more and more used to the wheel. Yuppie in P9, he's probably his best qualifying position, but only by maybe a place or 2. There we have the possible strategies. And we'll throw on the tires as well. medium or hard. Top 3 on the hard, the next 3 on mediums. Dave in P8. Gronk ahead of him in P7. Kryptonic P6. Goat in P5 after provisional pole. Cloud P4, I think his best qualifying as well. Lucid up in P3 around where he was in Spa. 50 or Heatley in P2 and Hitch in P1, and we'll watch the start from the lead drivers as we have the lights going down. Throw the position changes up, and there we have the start as everyone unghosts, and it looks like Hitch gets away fine, and we can't see anything, but here's the run into turn 1 as Lucid has had a great start, is on the inside, and there goes an Aston Martin down the order. And we'll throw this back up as everyone has either gained or lost the position. Barely anyone has held the line as Lucid jumps up, and Cloud as well as Heatley falls down from the lead. We've got some action in the midfield as well. Kryptonic down a spot. Dismal already up 2 spots after that grid penalty. Put him lower than where he should have been. Coach is now down at the bottom and battling still, so no one had an outright issue. Dave might have been that driver that we saw that had an issue in the start and kind of slid down the order a bit. But everyone else keeping it on the track at least, and we're sorting out the order as Hitch trying to break out of the DRS. Going to be an important thing as we see Dismal making another place. Quick work on lap 1, up 3 spots, practically erasing that grid penalty on lap 1. Now the giant DRS train has formed. Where will we see the gap first? Where will we see the train split? Dismal would love to be in that top group after the train splits, and looks like he's keeping up quite nicely. Goat probably the furthest behind, and Lucid about 7/10, trying to keep up with Hitch, but that's been kind of the story of the season, as everyone has been trying to keep up, but no one has been able to, as Cloud may be looking for a way through on those medium tires, everyone else on the hard, and Vivoda looks to have made a spot up on Matt. Coming into Sector 2, and this might be where the train splits. As you can see in the minimap, the Ferraris have a little bit of a gap, and it looks like it's going to be no DRS for Vivoda. And how long can he hold everyone back? And that's pretty much the gap between 1 point and then the rest of them, is essentially how you could say that. And Lucid already out of the DRS, and I think he's going to be under fire from Cloud going into this straight. And let's see how much ERS he's saved to maybe be able to defend. Is Cloud going to be eager to get this move done? Gaining, and there he goes down the inside and makes the move stick as he activates DRS once again, a double DRS detection point. So we look down the order, looks like no one else moved. Cloud, great to get that move done. And now he can get on the chase after Hitch, as they're on a different strategy, and the mediums should be faster for probably about 5 laps, and then they might fall off an absolute cliff. Everything been pretty civil so far in the race, as Yuppie has now fallen out of DRS. Both Ferraris not able to hang in the DRS of each other or of their respective trains, and Vivoda is going to have quite the time defending all these drivers behind, as they are all slotted in from 7th to 12th on the mediums, and the hard runners like Squatch in the top group there, waiting for the mediums to fall off so that they can possibly make their way through the field, maybe bridge that gap from the train. But the strategies will be quite different today, I suspect, as there goes Hitch around the first corner. Cloud not close enough. Fastest lap for him. Is he going to be able to hold off Lucid, who does make a late lunge Down the inside, Cloud looking for a switchback. Does he have it? It might be. Lucid not to his side, now to his side, thinks better of the move and drops back. A little bit of pressure there from Lucid on Cloud, and that's going to cost him a couple tenths to Hitch, who is going to be extremely thankful for that, as Dave does get the move done on Matt to move him up to 11th. And he'll take a crack at getting past Vivoda and trying to bridge the gap between the trains. But Hitch still at a safe distance away from Cloud, and Lucid all over the back, staying in the DRS and being aggressive. We've got no penalties so far, but definitely could see some coming our way as we throw the positions gained or lost. Vivoda up 3 spots. And Dismal as well, up 3 spots, doing well. There's your tires once again. Goat and Cloud, the only medium runners in the top 5. Everyone else locked in that 7th to 12th gap. Yuppie and Vivoda with the biggest gaps of the field. Lucid not going for a move. Once again, we'll go on board with Heatley here. Lucid gets a little loose and not going to be able to catch up and go for anything there. It'll be interesting to see these hard tires start to come online and start to outpace these mediums, I would assume, pretty quickly. We'll see if any of these medium runners pit for another set of mediums. They'll be committing to the 2-stop strategy, which I think might be pretty strong here. And as we're talking about a 2-stop strategy, Mr. 2-stop Kryptonic down into P7. Pretty sure where he qualified, if I'm not mistaken. Out just down 1 spot. He's on the medium tire, so we'll see. I think if people change their tire compounds, then they'll be maybe looking at a 1-stop. But if not, definitely be a 2-stop, and no safety cars so far. Do have the Williams of anime, and Kryptonic does get a snap of oversteer, and there goes his wing. As I was looking at the timing charts, and is that going to be a VSC? It looks like the cars have all slowed down. Buddha does take the free or the cheap pit stop. Not necessarily free. But Kryptonic now going to struggle without that front wing, and Dismal going to gain a spot. Basically when Kryptonic was sideways. A tough track to keep it clean, and definitely going to need to pit for a new wing, and that's going to hurt Kryptonic's race. And that's going to almost guarantee that he has to go for a 2-stop. He cannot push the stint any longer. Be interesting to see what tire he decides to throw on. If he goes on the hard and just tries a longer stint, or if he goes for the mediums again, just commits to that traditional 2-stop. Dismal now out of DRS. Gronk close, and looks like Goat looking for a move here on Heatley, racing very close side by side through Sector 3, and maybe with a little bit better of an exit, but still staying on the outside. Does break a little early, looking for a possible switchback. Is not going to find it. Heatley still has DRS, so will Goat be able to attack that much? Not necessarily, as Lucid does. And he gets the 2nd place away from Cloud, and with all this battling, Hitch is running away 3 seconds. Now the gap to the leader, but everyone else behind him battling hard, and this is what I mean. If Hitch was caught in these battles, I don't know if he'd be able to break away. I think pole is just so valuable on some of these tracks, especially with the clean air and the dirty air rework and how hard that is on tires. I think it's just very, very important to qualify on pole, which Hitch has done now in 2 of the 3 races, but inherited pole because of grid penalty, so has qualified in that first grid slot. 3 times, and we're 3 for 3 on just pulling away from the field and absolutely gassing everyone else who is just fighting tooth and nail for these positions all the way from 2nd to 7th in basically a DRS train. Not everyone on the same strategy, but everyone keeping pace as of now as you see the train coming through the last sector, the last corner. Dismal has caught back up to get in the DRS after that restart. We maybe saw that he wasn't going to be able to. Cloud going to slot it in. No one going for any moves. And doesn't look like he's going to be going for a move here. It's the gap out in front for Hitch is still 3.5 seconds. We see towards the back of the field here. Just as tight as the top. Right on board with them for a little bit. We'll be with Squatch on these hard tires. The medium runners should start to struggle around here. I would think the crossover point would be pretty soon. And a couple points still up for grabs for this bottom train. They would love to see someone in the top train either crash or spin or something happen, but there's the great divide, as you can see on the mini-maps. The Ferraris, pretty much where they are, that's the divide in the field, but both Ferraris in scoring position right now. The back of this field trying to just keep in the DRS. As we see them go through the big DRS zone, and Dave going to be too far back to try anything on Vivoda. Maybe going to try something. Here, Vivoda gets a little shaky, and so does Dave. And he is not going to go for an overtake there. Haven't seen anyone flip positions up in the top. Squatch getting very close to Matt, who's losing a bit of time to David. Wonder if these hard tires are really starting to come alive. Might mean that we see some aggression from Heatley trying to get up another position. I wonder who will be the first of the medium runners to pit off and get a new set of rubber. As we see Dismal starting to struggle a little bit, 1.3. Wonder if he decides maybe it's time to pit. I'm out of the DRS. I need to undercut to find a way back into the field. We'll see what the strategy call is there with McLaren. Heatley definitely not close enough here down the front straight. Dismal hemorrhaging time without the DRS, 1.8, now 2 seconds behind. He's definitely going to have to think about boxing for different tires here, and Hitch has now extended this gap to 5 seconds, looking untouchable so far in this race. Vivoda has caught up to Yuppie, who has struggled without the DRS. And he is bringing a train of drivers behind him. Eager for this 8th position, who is the leader of this train towards the back. We have the conductor, and then we have the caboose train. Vivoda has been the leader of the caboose train for pretty much the whole race, but now he might lump this into Yuppie, who seems to be struggling a bit more than everyone else on these medium tires, or Vivoda is really pushing, almost getting Dave out of the DRS as Dismal does pit off the mediums. He's the first driver to do so. No one follows suit behind him. Oh yes, someone does. That's Matt following suit, getting rid of those medium tires, and now Squatch will get into 10th place, and we'll see the different strategies and how they pan out, if they help anyone. If they don't, as we can throw on the stops now. Excuse me. No one in the top really flipping positions too much. Everyone's staying put. Yuppie in P7, 8 seconds away from that top train. Voda has now fallen off a little bit. 1.7 was almost in DRS, but cannot find the pace to stay, and Yuppie is now back into running his own race. So throw the tires back up there on the screen. No one boxing in the top 6. All going through, and I don't think we're going to see a move as everyone seems to be a little too far back. Probably pretty complacent to stay in the DRS as the strategies are going to change. We do see Kryptonic on those hard tires opting for the possibility of a one stop. Not sure if that's going to be possible or not, but unfortunate for him to fall out of that top position. And Dismal, who he was behind, he's going to be behind by about 3.5 seconds. So unlucky for him, but he'll definitely be pushing, trying to get a couple points. Excuse me for just stuttering. Still no penalties for a majority of the grid. Buddha in 19th does have the lone penalty, but everyone doing good to keep it within track limits. Will I curse someone by saying that? We'll find out. Update on Hitch, the gap is now 6.5, so just extending that gap slowly but surely. Looks like Heatley is pretty close to Cloud here, but Cloud with the DRS will be able to stay ahead pretty easily. T-Benz in the chat cheering his former team way back in the day, Aston Martin on, running 5th and 18th after their first stops. After Dave's first stop. This top train, still no one yet to pit. Dismal did pit and finds himself in a decent gap. 2 seconds from the driver in front, 3.5 behind. So is in a decent hole where he shouldn't be getting affected by dirty air or really any traffic. We'll see how these other drivers, when they'll be able to pit and if they'll be in the traffic of the train below them. Cloud doing an impressive job on these medium tires to be able to keep them going at this pace for 12 laps, as well as Goat, Yuppie, and Vivoda as well. And they've pretty much been without DRS the entire race, being able to hold position, especially Vivoda staying ahead of that DRS train for as long as he did on medium tires. Well, hard tires are behind him. Quite impressive defending from him, as we do see a move here from Cloud, and he gets second place, but Lucid gonna fight this one around the outside. We go side by side into this third corner as Cloud gets a little loose, and we're still side by side, and Lucid not wanting to see the position and pushed a little bit off track, but Lucid was far enough ahead where he did own the right to the track, as Goat picks up the first penalty from the top runners, and that is going to impact his race, as Heatley may be looking for a move but not going to actually go for one, maybe getting out of the way. And after that battle, I think Cloud, that's almost going to have to force his hand to just get rid of these tires, as we saw how much he's struggling, especially if there's going to be any kind of battling. There's no way that he can put up a fight on these tires, as we do see a caution in Sector 2. There's a car stopped or slowed, and we do see Cloud go into the pits. I think it may have been one of the Williams drivers. We'll ride on board with Dismal, who has caught up to the back train. Squatch in front on much slower tires, and you can just see the grip as he blasts around the outside and has already passed him before he even gets the DRS open. Is he going to be able to make a double overtake? There he goes past Mel, who might be looking for the switchback but isn't going to make any moves without DRS especially. And Dismal does go up to P9 after making those two overtakes and overtaking Cloud. So Cloud now has to deal with a little bit of traffic, and the undercut has net Dismal a place and is probably going to put Dismal up towards the top. Now it's just whether he can manage those tires and keep a strong defense or not, we'll see, as looks like Josh has gotten past Voda. Maybe a little bit of a mistake, but Josh turning it up on these hard tires and breaking away from that bottom field as Dismal does get past Vivoda as well. Looks like Vivoda needing to get off these 14-lap medium tires as well as Goat. But Goat not going to pit yet. The hard runners towards the top as Buddha does get another time penalty. We'll show you who has stopped and who has not. Dismal in 8th place, the top runner to have not stopped yet, as Vivoda does box as well as Yuppie. Hopefully they have enough of a gap to not double stack here. As we do see a couple drivers stopping. And we do see Cloud get past Mel. And now only Josh is between him and his teammate, which would be nice for McLaren to just work together through the field and maybe playing a team game, letting each other by. Gronk now out of the DRS, as well as Heatley, 1.5 and 1.2 out of the top. They will not be looking to stop anytime soon on these hard tires, probably going a couple more laps. I've said the gap should be around lap 20 to 23, where you see the hard runners pit, especially if they're going for a one stop. Goat should pit any time now, and as I say that, there he goes. Watch this battle as Cloud looks to get by Josh on much older tires, and it should happen as we do see some of the hard runners pit. As Hitch comes in to put on the mediums, Heatley comes in to put on the mediums. That's pretty early, in my opinion, but we'll see how it works out for them. Cloud does get past Josh and is now behind his teammate. 4th and 5th for the McLaren team. This would be a great finish for them. And we'll see maybe a little bit of the team game here. If Gronk can hold up Hitch, giving Lucid a bit of a gap and trying to give the rest of the field a bit of a chance. But we'll see what the strategy is here at McLaren, or here at Mercedes. Hitch surrounded by two teams, Mercedes in front and McLaren behind. Not in traffic at all, but possibly going to see someone try and defend or anything, but see Heatley make quick work of Josh on those fresh medium tires, and Lucid is going to box. Will Gronk follow him into the pits? No, he'll stay out another lap. So you can see Hitch in the distance, almost making up 2 seconds a lap. This will be probably Hitch's fastest lap attempt. So we see the McLaren teammates. They're going to swap positions here, it looks like. Dismal not fighting too hard with Cloud and hopefully going to get the DRS and be able to run away from Heatley behind and hopefully be able to hang on to those tires a little bit better. But we will see how it works out for the McLaren team. Kryptonic trying to fight his way back after that incident, damaging his wing. In P10, Would love a safety car, would love anything. Doing his best and back into the points position, but probably has to pit once again. As Gronk does get past. Hitch does it in sector 3, doesn't even wait for the straight. Gets by someone who could have made his race absolutely hell and could have flipped it upside, but Gronk not putting up too much of a fight. And Hitch does not set the fastest lap, but might be going for it this lap. Cloud and Dismal in position for a double podium now as Heatley sets the fastest lap, and he is on the chase here in P4. Looking for battles, and Squatch is falling down the field on these old hard tires, staying out a little bit longer. Fell down to P11, but will have fresher tires towards the end of this race, so we'll see what he can do, but is losing a bit of time here. 18 lap old hards has pushed them further than anyone else in the session has so far. And obviously is paying for that with 2 medium runners going by, as David on 7 laps and Gronk on 0 laps. Obviously going to make quick work of them. It's Gronk behind Kryptonic. Fresh tires versus some of the oldest tires in the lobby after pitting very early after the wing. Josh will be needing to pit soon as well, as he is on 18 lap old hards. Gronk may be thinking about a move, not trying anything, and now short shifting to get a little bit more traction outside. A little bit of a switchback. Kryptonic might still have DRS here. Does not matter. Gronk blasts by, and he does not have DRS, so just a sitting duck versus Gronk's 1 lap medium tire, and there he goes. As Lucid also gets a 3-second time penalty. Right behind Dismal, and Heatley has found his way past in P3 here. Now looking to chase Cloud, but not really much to be chasing, as he is already almost 2.5 seconds back, and Cloud doing his best to catch up to Hitch, and hopefully will be praying for the crossover period to come sooner rather than later. As he is about 8.6 with 15 laps to go. As Lucid is right on the back of Dismal, who could not stay behind his teammate, and rightfully so. His teammate is probably one of the fastest people on track right now. Lucid looking for a way by old teammates last year, and no love lost as Lucid blasts by into P4. And it looks like Goat also looking for a move. These two not necessarily happy with each other after the qualifying incident, but Goat makes the move around the outside, gets the place from Dismal, who might be struggling a bit on these tires. The undercut net him a couple positions, but he's lost those relatively quickly and is now 6th place, still very good from 11th place after that grid penalty, and does have a nice 8-second gap to Gronk, so we'll see how quickly that comes down. Goat, the only one at the top now in DRS. Used to be such a tight train, and now after the different strategies, we have all kinds of different tire lives, and people on completely different strategies as Matt tries to keep it on track and struggling on these hard tires. 10 laps old, both the Ferraris on younger hard tires, and will be looking to attack in a bit, but both of them 5 seconds behind. He is happy to get DRS from Kryptonic and just be able to keep a little bit of pace. And and it gets a little loose again there. So easy to do in Hungary. Coach trying to get DRS from Vivoda. Same lap, old tires. So close to points last week. Don't know if he would have had it if he finished, but got a puncture at the very end. And we saw him go flying off the track, as it looks like he is fighting with the car once again this week. Hungary is not an easy track, as we see Mel go by. And Josh coming back after him and Squatch waited to pit for some of the longest time and will be on the freshest medium tires on the grid. They'll be looking to get a couple positions here, but we'll see. Towards the end of the race, I think those guys will be the quicker drivers, as Coach gets a 3-second time penalty. Now Goat looking to get into Lucid. Looking to get by Lucid, not into Lucid. As Dismal does go for a 2-stop strategy, Goat did not get the move done and is going to make a late move here. Makes it stick. A little bit of contact there and forces Lucid over the corner. Lucid looking for a switchback, but didn't find any room with Goat, as we do have a caution in Sector 2. That's Kryptonic who pit, but we do have a driver who I think is around. Not sure what is going on towards the back of the grid. Kryptonic does opt for the 2-stop, probably needed to do that, as well as Dismal going for the 2 hards. We'll see what he can do. Still on the points after that second stop, so looking promising, but this 12-second gap is going to be quite the menace when you're working your way back up the field. As Josh gets the move done on Mel towards the back of the field for 11th place, and now next stop is points. Josh looking for his first point of the season. Vivoda is the only driver between him, and he is on a lot fresher medium tires, just needing to make those last till the end. Him along with Matt are 2 drivers who are still getting used to the wheel, switching from controller, and they have seen plenty of improvement, as Matt also opting for the 2-stop. We'll throw that back up on the screen here, as we see Dismal in 7th place on the 2-stop, and there's a 14-second gap. Going to definitely do him wonders if anyone in front of him does decide to 1-stop, but if not, don't know how he'll be able to make up 14 seconds in 11 laps. Going to be tough, but he is going to definitely be pushing and giving it his all. This Anime gets another 3-second time penalty, and I think he might have been the one to have that issue and to bring out the yellow, but this does net Josh P10 after David, Kryptonic, and Matt all try the 2-stop strategy. So this is going to definitely be an interesting battle for the points, as Lucid has hung on to Goat's DRS, but Goat getting DRS from the Williams, who's being shown the blue flags. Right in the middle of all these battles. Both of the Williams drivers are still here. They just look ghosted because they are a lap down. We'll just double check, as Anime has a full car silhouette as well. And this one is a ghost. Svensson disconnecting early, having some connection issues. Might be an early retirement from the season for him. As we do see a couple moves and a driver off. That's Coach going a little deep. Mel taking the position, and look at how tight all these drivers are in this little train. As Squatch looking to go on the outside. Coach having to give up the position off the racing line. David looking for the position as well. Not going to be able to find it around the outside here. This Coach is on that 1-stop strategy as well as the drivers in front. But Dave on those newer tires, looking to get by, and does in the chicane. There's a little bit of contact. Coach keeping the position as Heatley does pit, opting for the two-stop strategy. And Coach just having to go outside and almost ceding that position on purpose to just let Dave by, and Kryptonic is going to go by. And this has just been a disastrous Sector 2 for Coach, losing tons and tons of positions there, getting bullied off the track, and now down into 15th place. Squatch looking to battle Mel for 11th. He's going to have the DRS, going to be weaving a little bit back onto the racing line. Here he goes, both on medium tires, both young tire lives, but Squatch gets the move done, does get DRS on the younger tires, and Mel gonna fight this a little bit. Does not stick it down the inside. A little bit too far back, and now has a snap of his own and might be struggling to stay in the DRS if Squatch can make good work of Sector 2. Now Josh right into the gearbox of Vivoda, only a half a second between him, and doubling his point total as Hitch does opt for the two-stop strategy, and this opens the door for Cloud in first place. Hitch is going to have some work to do. He's going to have to make a couple overtakes on the new medium tires. Is he going to be able to find enough time to be able to make these overtakes at the end of the race? Coming out in fourth place, Cloud and Goat going to probably opt for the one-stop strategy on the hard tires. Definitely can make them last another 8 laps. We've seen it on the first sector, or on the first stint for those hard runners, running on full fuel, being able to make that stick. And so we'll definitely be keeping an eye to see if Hitch can fight all the way back up to first, as Josh getting a little antsy out of the first corner and that second DRS zone. Very hard to control. The DRS opens very early in that corner. Josh in P10 fighting for P9 here with Vivoda. Who knows who has the better tire? 11 lap hards versus 7 lap mediums. It's the difference of strategy. And we have a yellow over the whole track. What has happened? Are we going to see a safety car? It looks like it's just a VSC. And the leaders have already passed the pits. No one opting for the cheap stop. Dismal off the track here. Don't know what is going on. We have a drive-through penalty for Coach for speeding under the VSC. It just ended. That was like the shortest VSC I've ever seen. What is happening? Dismal pits, but the VSC is over. Lucid also with a 3-second time penalty. These are inherently helping Hitch, who is right on the back of Lucid, trying to get back at Cloud. Goes for a switchback, and let me tell you, that move was absolutely excellent from the Alpine driver Hitch, proving that he doesn't have to be qualifying in pole to make moves of that caliber. He's got about a second a lap to go on Cloud. Not sure what happened. We've got another caution. It looks like the Williams is off here. And Goat going to try and defend Hitch for probably as long as he can. Goes wide here. Lets Hitch basically take the corner. Hitch is going to have DRS, and goodbye. 7.5 seconds between Hitch and his third win in a row. Cloud going to be doing all that he can. One small mistake for Hitch might cost him the race win, and we've seen this before in real life. Just this past weekend, Oscar Piastri was looking for the win on Lando Norris and came up short, had problems getting the move done on the last couple laps. Will we be able to see magnificent defense from Cloud? Will we be able to see Hitch finally be able to get the overtake done that Oscar Piastri couldn't do in real life? The gap is closing rapidly. The gap is 6 seconds. Cloud aware of that gap and going to be aware of that gap for the entire race. 5.5 seconds now. It's coming down rapidly, but those mediums are also going to deteriorate rapidly. They should be faster than those 14-lap hards, but it just depends on how much faster. It needs to be around a second a lap, and Hitch making sure that his second a lap is going to be met, and Dismal does DNF in the pit lane after that VSC randomly decided to end. Not sure whatever happened there, but a shame to see Dismal's race end like that after he fought his way back from P11 in qualifying. But we still have a battle up front. Cloud probably a little upset that his teammate wasn't able to get a good finish for the team, but now might have a little bit of a race engineer in his ear telling him the gaps here. No real fighting throughout the field. Kryptonic does get by Josh on the younger tires for P9. Josh and the Kick team still in the points here. The Squatch and Dave lurking behind. And Squatch trying to make the one-stop work. Dave on the two-stop. Dave goes down the inside. Squatch not fighting it too much. And Dave drives himself off the track. He's going to rejoin and keep the position here. The Squatch trying to stay on the back of him and going to be happy to take some DRS here. Hopefully we'll be able to keep on the back, and we'll see if David can crack the Kick Sauber team and get into the points as he is running 11th. Both those kicks right behind Vivoda as well. Points up for grabs for these 5 drivers. Vivoda, Kryptonic, Josh, David, and Squatch. All within that DRS, and Matt rapidly approaching on those 6-lap-old mediums. But back at the front, I think Hitch is doing plenty of work to get his way back into first. You can see Cloud just disappearing in the front edge of the camera, and there in the back disappearing as we do have another caution. Looks like the Williams are just struggling towards the end of this race. We do have a Williams right between Cloud and Hitch. And we do have the ghosts enabled, so there won't be contact, as if you saw an ERA was the big drama last week, or last race for them. The leaders both having contact with the driver who was being shown the blue flags. I think Hitch certainly has made his way back into the DRS, and now with 3 laps to go, I mean, we would have to see a magnificent defense from Cloud to be able to keep this P1, and we'll see if he's able to do it and how aggressive he is with it. How on the line do you want to be for your first win of the season here, as we will stay on board with the leaders and ride on board with Hitch, who doesn't have the DRS this lap but is well within the DRS range, and Cloud struggling, as we do see Heatley make up a place into the top 4, slotting the Mercedes down into 5th and 6th, and going to be trying to get within penalty range of GOAT, which is 3 seconds away. But on board with Hitch, once again, only 4/10 the gap. And honestly, if you're Cloud, you just back him up pretty much as far as you can. I'd want to have your ERS at none and just try and save so that you can deploy all that battery down the front straight. That's the big overtaking zone in the track. Maybe trying to get Hitch to make a mistake, maybe get a penalty if he's on 2 warnings or not. No one is sure who is on 2 warnings. No one knows how close someone is to a penalty, and 3 seconds would be detrimental to either of these drivers, as Cloud is just going to let him by, taking the outside line, and without DRS, goodbye as Hitch goes flying past. Cloud does stay with him, but is struggling on these tires that are now 18 laps old. Go behind him on 16-lap-old tires. And I can imagine that Hitch is going to be running away on these medium tires. He got the move done, with a couple laps to spare, and now is likely going to see another race win, as we do have a caution. It looks like the Haas is off of Squatch, who does fall to 14th place, gets the car going again. Vivoda all the way down out of the points, was in 7th. We're still riding on board with the leaders, but I think without DRS, I don't think there's any way that Cloud is able to stay in this battle here. Looks like he might just hang on to it. Maybe, maybe not. Crossing the detection point at 18 thousandths over a second, does not get the DRS, and that is likely going to be it unless we see a penalty pop up for Hitch. Dave splitting the kicks, but Josh still in the points positions as Vivoda lurking behind, and Matt as well. We have another caution, and that is Coach DNFing on one of the final straights. We can't really find a good view of it. Yuppie would be the first person to cross it. I think his car has already been removed by the invisible marshals. We do have a caution behind now, and it looks like it just might be one of the Williams drivers in 17th and 18th. Going to gain another spot because of the Coach DNF. Unfortunate for him, back-to-back DNFs for the second-seeded Alpine. So far, so good for the Kick team. Looks like Josh going to be fighting for P9 as David trying to stay ahead here, but 7/10 the gap. And Kryptonic looking for P7 as well, as Yuppie has had quite a quiet race. Has been able to just do what he needs to do and score consistent points. The final lap here has started. Hitch going through Sector 1. We have another caution. Looks like the Williams drivers again. We heard a big crash. I think it was just Williams. Just a crunching noise into the barriers. But we'll stay on board as Matt does get by Vivoda for P11. And will he be able to get the next place? We'll try and flip to that. But Hitch with almost a picture-perfect start. He's had pole in 2 races. This race won't count as a pole. Only missed out on it by 1,000th. A 5-place grid penalty for Goat makes him not very competitive this race and gives Hitch the clear lane from first to finish first. Maybe a moment of doubt on that 2-stop strategy, but not a moment of doubt in his mind. Hitch 3 for 3 to start season 9, takes the win. Cloud in P2, maybe not the happiest, but is still glad to get a podium. Goat finishes in P3. Will Heatley be close enough? No, by 1/10. Just missing out on the podium. Goat rounds out our podium sitters. Lucid coming through to take 5th. Gronk in 6th. The Mercedes team has had a good race, especially with the dismal DNF helping out a bit. Yuppie in P7, doing what he needed to do. Kryptonic fighting back after breaking his entire wing off in the first stint to take points. He'll be proud of that. David coming in 9th, still holding on to that 2 points. Matt in 10th, beating out Josh towards the end of the race on those old mediums for the final point. Josh in 11th and Vivoda 12th. Mel coming in 13th is going to be passed by Svensson, but Svensson is a ghost driver, so he will be disqualified in the results. And the couple lap drivers of Squatch after his incident in the final stint, and both Williams drivers in 16th and 17th. plenty of room to improve and just getting used to the assists. And Williams, the only way is up for them. Quite the start to the season as Fate has retired. And now with Buddha and Anime just looking to improve and possibly snag some point finishes towards the later half of the season. But here we are, Hitch with the win and the fastest lap. Perfect day for him, almost pretty much leading every single lap, but having to fight back for his first position after the stops, was able to put enough of a gap on Cloud to take P1. Cloud and P2, Goat P3, Heatley P4, as I've already mentioned, as they all cross the line. Here's their gaps and penalties. Here's the back of the drivers. We do have drivers that were 2 laps down. And here is the race director, which, as you can see, exceed track limit, exceed track limit, exceed track limit. Yep. And we do see that Hitch did have one warning, possibly one more up here. So it was a little dangerous for him, and Cloud definitely warranted putting a little bit of pressure on him. He was within that 3-second gap. If Hitch was to get a penalty, Cloud would have been there to swoop in and just barely take the win. But the pole sitter, or should I say the front grid sitter, the first grid box sitter, since Hitch was technically not pole, they've been undefeated. And it's been one driver, Hitch, starting from the first grid box in all 3 weeks and finishing first, lining his car up in the first grid box in the pit lane. Undefeated so far in Season 9. We'll see if anyone will be able to dethrone him, as it has looked dominating and hopeless at times, but this race definitely a little bit closer than what Spa or any of the other races where Canada had a very big gap as well towards the end of that race. So good racing from everyone. It was fun to see some of the drivers battle for every single point. And, it's good to see a couple different podium sitters, a couple different people having definitely different strategies, and got a little bit unlucky. It was less of a big DRS train and definitely more of strategies and a little bit of chaos and some short VSCs that were very unpredictable. But we will see you all next week when we go to our first sprint race of the season, which is in Brazil. Will Hitch be able to make it 4 for 4, possibly 5 for 5 when you count the sprint? Or will someone else be able to take the top step of the podium and get those 25 important points before the championship leader starts to run away with it? We'll see next week. Hopefully we'll see you guys there watching the replay, and hope you all have a great night and take care. We will see you next week in Brazil.